Now, question, like, does this week of baseball playing really good against the Rays and really good against the Padres, teams that are good, like teams that are you expect to make the playoffs going forward for the rest of this season, like coming off the Red Series, we were pretty low. We're like kind of changed our tune from the first 3 weeks of the season where we're hot, hit the Red Series, like, okay, this team is not a playoff team. This team might be selling again. Does this week of baseball make us go back a little bit and say, okay, we are good. We have aspects of this team that are good. Can we still push for a playoff spot, and what needs to keep happening, and what do you want to see? Maybe a player be called up, a change. What do you want going forward, and what has this changed your expectations?
I think we're in the uneasy zone. Like, I want to say yes, and I want to be really positive, but we've been burned on this before. I don't want to see another sell-off. And the unfortunate part is, like, a sell-off would include Stroman, who is like the shining light of the team right now.
Yeah.
Like, I want to see him still pitch in Cubby Blue. I really like the Amaya call up, because that's kind of was going to be my thing of, like, let's get him up with the big league club. I'm a little confused on what we're going to do. Are we going to get rid of Barnhart? Are we going to try to trade him to a catcher?
I mean, we're paying Dale to stay at home. Why not pay Tucker too?
I mean,
that's his name, Jeff, by the way. It's Tucker.
Yeah. Hey,
he's got another season though. He's got another year on the contract. So
I was surprised to find out that Merriweather's name was Julian. I thought it was Lewis.
Yeah, and his brother Clark.
That's right. Yeah. I'll tell you what, those guys will help us get to the Pacific Northwest. I'll tell you that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh man, but I'm optimistic. I want to say yes. I want to say some of these folks are going to kick it in, but there are some kind of glaring holes or little weird issues, like Hap can't hit from the right side right now.
Yeah. Hap's just been on a slide for like the last, I think Scott said at the beginning of the broadcast, 19 games. This has not been. He's walking, but he's not. The balls aren't falling in, and it's really frustrating to watch as the president of the Ian Happ fan club. And we've also got his best friend on the podcast. We got Happ ties. I think my expectations are kind of back to where they were at the beginning of the season. So obviously when April we went on the tear, I was like, oh my God, we could be a playoff team. And then we slid, and I don't know. I mean, if we can win tonight, we're down 3-0. If we can come back and win this game to take this series, then I feel good. Like I feel really good about that, because that shows that, like, they don't have the quit. Like, there's no quit in them, like we saw back in April. I think when I went on my rant about being bored, that was when they had kind of given up. Like, it felt like they were kind of rolling over toward the end of games and like not really competing. So I think a lot of it does. Like, I do think that some depends on Bellinger being healthy, and I don't expect him to be as good as he was to start the season. But again, like I've said, if he can be 75% of his MVP season, this team's good. This team's really good. And I do think that he can be that when he gets back. I don't know. I really don't want them to sell at the deadline, and I don't think that's still very much unclear. I don't think that the front office has the answer to that yet.
Yeah. And I think still give me some time.
That's both good and bad, right? Like, you wish that it were at this point in the season, like, nope, if anything, we're buying. Especially as we always talk about the strength of this division, or lack thereof.
They are who I thought they were. Meaning that, like, even if you go back to the Rays series, they won 1-0, they won 2-1, and they lost 3-4. Then you start with the San Diego series, and they win 2-1, and then they lose 6-0, and then they won 7-1. But you had a stretch of like 5 games in there where it was still 1-run ball games. And it's those, like, Cubs are going to have, if they're going to be good, they have to win in the margins and win a lot of those one-run games. And right now, I don't know if they have enough talent to be able to come through and win enough of those to make the playoffs. Will we be right there within 3 or 4 games at the end of the season, possibly making the playoffs? Yeah, I think we'll be right there at the top, like of the getting into the wild card. We'll be like 4 games out, 5 games out at the end of the season. That's why I kind of expect. And so that's tough. But going into the trade deadline, I think that we can still be in that spot and that we can still try to add to this team. I've said it for years, I think at least a year, that the Cubs will get Shane Bieber. So I think they could make a trade and add to and still not make the playoffs and be kind of like what, remember like the Reds a couple of years ago when they traded for Trevor Bauer and they traded for, I can't remember, it was like 3 or 4 guys, but they traded for the next season. They made trades to try to win the following year, not that year. They were already losing, but they used their collateral of their farm system to be able to improve the team for next year. That's what I want the Cubs to do. Get major league talent. Go out and get some guys.
No, I hope they're stubborn and they're not sellers. Like, even if they don't buy, don't sell.
Think about this. You have a guy like Caleb Killian, who's just a little bit off. Like, he's pitched better this year for Iowa. But you look at a team like Cleveland, and I'll say Shane Bieber again, like Cleveland loves their pitching. Like they loved,
and they've got a lot of it.
And they could take a guy like Killian that maybe just needs a change of scenery, and he has the stuff. Use him to get Shane Bieber. I don't know.
That'd be interesting. That'd be really interesting, actually. I don't think that. So I was high on Bieber last year. I remember talking about him. Like, I know we've talked about him on the pod before about him being a target. I am not as high on him this year. Whenever he came back and his velocity was just like way down, the velocity, as far as I know, has stayed down, and the results have been okay. I think he got blown up in a recent start. And so I don't know, like, if we could land Shane Bieber for Caleb Killian plus, we've got power. We've got some power bats in the minors.
Caleb Killian and Tucker Barnhart.
Yeah, there we go. That's a fair deal. That's a fair deal. I'm pretty sure the Guardians' catching position is like, their catcher is like the worst positional group, and I think I saw that the worst positional group in all of Major League Baseball.
So it'd be right at home.
Yes. Yeah.
Offensively.
Yeah. Shane Bieber's baseball savant. There's a lot of blue.
So like, what's his ERA and then his xERA?
His ERA is 3.72. His xERA is 4.89.
Yeah, that's a huge difference. So like that's saying the quality of contact, he's somehow, and they've got a solid defense in Cleveland. They've got some speedy guys in the outfield, and their infield defense is solid too. But yeah, I don't know. I like the idea, Mitch, of trying to trade for a starting pitcher for the future. I like that idea. Like they did with Quintana. And people didn't love the Quintana outcome at the time. But I think looking back, like, Quintana was solid. When he was healthy, he was solid. And of course, you'd like to see them trade for a bigger splash than that. But whatever the market dictates, right? I mean, at the same time, you don't want a rotation that's topped with, number 3 starters, number 2, 3 starters, right? They need to go out and get an ace. And it would be, with the surplus that we have of offense, I think right now in the system, I'd rather see them trade young bats for an ace pitcher than rely on the free agent market this offseason.